Well, good morning everybody. How y'all doing? And welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be tackling a pretty epic mod, I think. And that is a front-facing camera on the Tacoma back there. I've mentioned many times that I think all trucks should have a front-facing camera. So I went ahead and picked one up. I'll leave the details down below, where I got it, that kind of stuff. But what we've got here is a kit that I bought online, and everything that you see over here is what comes with the kit. It has a rear override harness, and then in the center here it has the video harness and a relay, and then we have a dual switch here. As you guys can see maybe on the front, it has rear and front facing camera selectors on it that we're going to install in the truck. And then also it did come with a camera. Now what I also got with this, and full disclosure before I continue, I did buy a separate camera because I didn't realize that it came with a camera, the kit that I bought. So you don't have to buy this extra camera unless you want to. I've heard it's a little bit better camera, so who knows. Had I realized that it came with the camera, I wouldn't have bought an extra one, but I did. So there'll be a giveaway coming up for a camera if you're interested in that. So that'll be down the road. But what I bought in addition here was, like I said, another camera. And this is the one that I'm going to be using. You guys can see here, this will go or be mounted in the grill on the front of the Tacoma there. And it comes with all the wiring and stuff that you need, tie downs, tape, some wire splices, of course the nut that you need to hold it on, a little bit of padding there to keep it from vibrating around, and even a trim tool. This is actually going to come in quite handy. But that's what I bought in addition to the kit here, that of course I didn't need because it comes with a camera. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, get you guys in the frame there. We need to remove this trim bezel that goes around the radio here, and it should just pull off. We're going to start over here, and I did bring a little trim tool in case I need to get under there for anything, but I don't really know exactly where the pins are. I think there are 10 of them under there. So we're going to start by just grabbing the edge and giving it a pull here. So let's see. Wow, well, that's it. Just one good pull on the edge and the whole thing popped off. There are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 little pins here. You can see the red pins. That's all that holds this thing in. And wow, that was pretty simple. So we're going to set this aside. And next, we'll tackle the radio here. There are, it looks like 4 10mm bolts, 2 on each side, 2 here and 2 over here. So we're gonna remove those, and then we're gonna set the radio forward. Meanwhile, I'm gonna tilt my seat up a little bit. There we go. Give myself a little more room. All right, here we go. Let's see about getting these out. All right, that gets the radio loose, and I'm just gonna set it out here on the shifter, hopefully, if everything reaches properly. Okay, we've got the radio out. You guys can see the wiring and stuff behind it. We have 2 plugs that we want to take out. One on the left, right on the top, and one on the right, right on the top. And then we have the rear override harness here that we're going to be plugging into the one on the left, which is the 24 pin. So the bigger connector obviously is going to receive the bigger connector coming out of the radio. So we're going to go ahead and pull that out. Should just push down right here on the top. And that was pretty simple. So now we're going to plug in the harness itself. Make sure we get that in the right way. It does go like so, with the smoother top, I guess you could say, or part rather, on top. There we go. Make sure we're in there. Good, we are. So that takes care of that. Now let's go ahead and plug into the radio. Okay, now we're going to plug the end of the video. Let's see, this is the rear override harness, to get the terminology correct, back into the socket that you just pulled the original out of. Nice little pop there. I like that. Now we're going to move on to the other connector. Alright, next we're going to plug in the video harness. That's the one with the relay on it here. So, the connector on the right we're going to go ahead and remove, same way that we did the other. Just push the little pin down here and pull that out, like so. And then we're going to take the bigger end, if you will, of the video harness and plug the existing wire into that. Just like that. And then we're going to take the other end and plug it back into the radio. Let's go ahead and do that. Alright, let me show you where we're at the moment. We've got our two wiring harnesses plugged in here. Again, the one on the right, and you really can't mess this up because they don't fit any other way. And just to correct earlier, it's a 28 and a 24 pin connector here, not what I had said before. So a 28 and a 24 pin. Everything is plugged in. So now it's time to run the wiring for the camera from the engine bay into the front, where we will plug in this RCA connector into the connector that is on the wiring harness with the relay. So we'll plug this in. They did mark it so you can't mess it up, although they sent it with all of the connections already plugged in, so the only one available is the one with the mark on it. But you'll plug this together right here once we have it run from the front. Another thing I'll mention, on the camera that I bought, there is a red wire that you can see here. We're not going to be using that, so what I'm going to do is just tape it down once I get everything run through. I'm just going to tape it down to the existing wire. I'm not going to cut it off or anything, but I am going to tape it down. So now we need to run this from the position in the front where we're going to put the camera through the firewall, and then eventually bring it up behind the radio here, where we can secure everything and put the radio back in. So let me get you set up. I'll show you how I'm going to run the wiring through the firewall into the truck. Okay, I'm going to show you guys where I'm going to go through the firewall into the truck. I'll zoom you in here in a second, but you can see the brake fluid cylinder or reservoir right here. It's right down here to the right of that. So let me zoom you guys in. Right there. You guys can see where that bundle of wires goes through, and then there's also that gray or round holder there in it. We're going to go through right below there. Just going to poke a hole through that rubber grommet, and we're going to send the wires through that way. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to start with just a pretty decent size flathead screwdriver. You guys can see there, maybe, if it focuses. It's a decent size, big enough to be able to fit the wiring through. And then we're going to feed it to the inside, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Okay, we're underneath here in the firewall, or inside the cabin. And if you look real close, right there, you can see the end of the Phillips screwdriver poking through that grommet that I showed you under the hood. So that's where we're gonna go in at. So I just need to pull the wire through that hole, and then we can get on with the rest of the project. All right, we've got everything taped up to take this thing through the firewall. And as I mentioned before, I did tape the red wire that's on the end. You can't see it now because it's taped up, but on the end of the RCA jack, that's going to go back through the firewall ultimately to plug into the wiring harness inside. And what I've done, I actually have this is just the bottom part of a clothes hanger, one of those cheapo plastic hangers. And I had a better idea, I think. Instead of piercing that hole through the firewall with a screwdriver, which I've already done, I went ahead and sharpened the end of this plastic rod because it's firm enough that you can do that. And I'm going to use this to feed through the firewall and then pull the wiring once it's inside. So we'll see how it works. Hopefully it works all right. I don't know. We'll find out. All right, you guys can see there we are through. And back up in there is where we came through the firewall. And my little creation here worked very well. So now we're going to feed this up back behind the radio that way, secure it down, and then move on to the next step. All right, we've got the wire pulled through. So this is the RCA end, and again, this is the one that had the red wire on it that we're not going to use, that I've taped down here. Excuse me. So we're going to go ahead, plug this into the wire with the relay side on it, and again, it's marked so you know which one to plug into. It's the only one left, so it should be pretty easy. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to go ahead and tape all these connections up. A great idea, I think, just to make sure that nothing, you know, once the installation's done, comes unplugged for some reason. Obviously, you don't want to go through all this and then have a wire come unplugged. So we're going to go ahead and tape all these up nice and neat with some electrical tape, just to make sure that everything stays the way that we want it. Okay, so we've got all of those taped together, and now I'm going to take a page out of the Taco Twan's video, and I'm going to place the switch that you need down here in the area right below the radio. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this switch out and in essence reconnect it and leave it behind here and put my new switch right there. Again, this is something that I saw on a video from Taco Twan's. He did the same thing, and I think that's a great idea. It'll give it a little more custom look. And I also leave this on all the time, so won't really matter to me. It'll be behind there, and then if I ever wanted to pull it back out and put it on, it's there. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Should just be able to reach back behind this, pull the two little tabs together and push it forward, disconnect it, reconnect it, tape it up, and then stick it behind the dash here, or behind the radio, probably somewhere in this area. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then continue. Okay, let me bring you guys up to speed here. We've got all the wiring connected inside the cab, and everything is being connected to the camera switch harness. You guys can see right here, and I'll show you the colors. Running from the video harness relay, that's the one with the square relay on it, you have the red wire connected to the green wire, again on the switch harness here. You have the black wire connected to black, that would be ground, and we're going to ground that to a bolt inside or behind the radio here. And then we have the wiring coming from the rear override, which is this braided looking kind of cable. We have the orange connected to the orange, and we have red connected to red. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and finish up the ground. I do need to make up a little bit of a wire to go from here to the ground behind the radio there, and I'll show you in there real quick if you guys can see. Let's see here. Right down here, right there, you can see a bolt, and then over here on the other side, right there, you can see a bolt. We're going to use the one on the right probably for the relay, and the one on the left down there for the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and make up my wiring and get that connected up. Okay, we've got the relay mounted down there. You guys can see right there, that's the relay. And then we're going to go with the ground wire here on the other side. And I've gone ahead and made up my ground wire. It's here. This is a 16 gauge wire. I did put the same kind of connector on the one end here. That's like a butt splicer, I guess it's called, I think. And then a ring terminal on this side to be screwed into the bolt over here on the left that I showed you earlier. So we're going to go ahead and get the ground wire secured down there, and then I'm going to tape all this stuff up. Obviously we can't have these connectors touching each other and stuff, or we'll have a problem. And then go ahead and hook the ground in right here to the splicer that I have waiting for it. Okay, you guys can see right down there with the silver screw and the blue ring connector, that is my ground. And here it is up top, right there. If we could focus there, it'd be nice. There we go. And we're gonna go ahead and connect it right here. And then we're gonna, like I said, wire or electrical tape all these connections I've made over just to protect them so they don't touch each other and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll move on. Okay, we've got everything run back there. Everything's connected up. I have stuck the switch jack or connector here through the hole where we're going to mount the switch. So we need to grab the switch here. See if I can't get that out. There you go. You guys can see that. Then I'm going to go ahead and connect it and go ahead and push it in there because we are at that point. There you go. We've got it mounted in there. Now just go ahead and seat it right in there. Awesome. All right, now we're going to move on to the next step. All right, we've got the radio finished, so everything is set back in right now. Going to put the cover back on. It just snaps back on, and then we're going to get under the hood and finish up. Okay, we're going to run our wire to the front now. It's, of course, through the firewall. So we have to find the front of all of this. And then we're going to take it from where it is, probably tie it down in a couple of places along there. But anyway, we're going to run it up to the front. And of course we do want to make sure that we leave the power and the ground up here by the fuse box, because that's how we're going to connect. So we have the power and the ground here, and we'll leave this up here, so we're not going to drag that with us, hopefully, although we are going to have to take it some of the way. So now that we have all this run, we're going to go ahead and drill a hole in the grill where we're going to mount the camera. So we're going to do that next. All right, I think I have everything measured up for where I want to put the camera. And what I've done, underneath the Y, behind here is like a little ridge that takes up space underneath this lip where you have to be able to put the bolt, or the nut rather, to be able to screw into this part on the camera. So I've moved it over as close as I can to that ridge, And if you guys do this, you'll know what I'm talking about if you have the Pro Grill. So I've had to move it over just a little bit to the right, or the driver's side. It's not too bad. And then we have to figure out where to put the hole. Now there is this little part that sticks out here, so you can't really put the camera in any further than that because it will hit. You can see there the camera's actually longer or deeper than that little nub here. So we're gonna mark it according to where I have the nut, and we're gonna drill a hole up through here. It'll be on the inside, you won't be able to see it, and then we'll tighten this nut down on this little screw part here, and that will secure the camera. We'll feed the wiring up through the hole, of course, make our connections, and then move on to power. All right, here we go. See if we can get it right the first time, because we really only have one time. Help if you drill the right way, wouldn't it? Wow. Alright, let's see. Looks pretty good to me. So let's hit it with a 5/16. Alright, moment of truth. We've got our 5/16 or 17/64 ready. So we're going to drill up through that pilot hole and hope all is right. Again, I'm going to make sure that what I've done is good. Okay, we got the camera in. You guys can see it does stick out a little bit here on the edge. I don't have it tightened down yet, but it does stick out a little bit here on the edge. That's as close as I could get it. You guys can see it's a little bit, I mean, from a distance, you're not really going to even notice it probably. Alright, so let's show you where we're at right now. We've got the camera mounted loosely in here right now. I'll have to tighten that down. First we have to get power and see what the view is like and all that good stuff. So we have the end of the power cord here, which of course is going to plug into the end, or the receiving end rather, coming from the front, from the radio. And then we have the power wire and the ground here. Now the power wire, we're going to add this or connect this to an add fuse, and then we're going to plug that into the fuse box. I'll show you where that goes, and then we're going to ground it against probably the side down by the battery, maybe the battery ground, I'm not sure yet, we'll see. So we'll put an eye connector on here and hook it all up. So let me show you the fuse box, what we're going to do here. Go ahead and take this off. There's just 3 little clips to unclip. And then where we're going to put the fuse, right here, it's hard to see, right here, towards the front of the truck, there starts with a 20 amp fuse. We're going to go, including the 24 down to this 10 right here. We're going to pull that fuse out. We're going to put our add fuse in there. This is the EFI 1 fuse position, and that is the electronic fuel injection system that when you turn the truck on, it fires up. So that's where we want to have our connection for power right there. So we're going to go ahead and get all this set up, and then I'll show you guys the connections and all that stuff. Alright, we're going to go ahead and put our add fuse on the end of our power cord, and this is the add fuse. What this does, you take out the existing fuse and then plug this into the fuse panel, and then you put the fuse that was there, the one that you replaced in, and also an additional fuse for the device or unit, in this case the camera that you're adding. So let's go ahead and get this thing on there. Alright, we've got our wire crimped in there, And now I'm going to put a little heat shrink over it and shrink it down, hopefully. Should we get that right? Got our handy dandy hair dryer here. Alright, gone ahead and taken care of the ground. I just use one of these little open-ended connectors because I'm just going to slip it over the bolt in there. So we're going to go ahead and shrink this down. I've got a little heat shrink on there. And then we're going to make the connections and fire this thing up. Okay, I had mentioned that there are 3 different wires sticking out of the harness for the camera. And you'll notice I have the white wire cut. That's because this camera is originally set up to be a rear-facing camera, and so that the system knows that it's a front-facing camera, or not rear-facing, you want to go ahead and snip that rear, or rather that white wire. Now the green wire that you see is for the lines in the screen. If you like those, you just leave it as is. If you don't want to have the lines in the front, you can go ahead and snip that. Okay, let's catch you guys up. It started to rain outside, so I had to pull in. What I've done, going over here to the fuse panel or box, right here is the add a fuse, where I've put 2 fuses in, 2 10-amp fuses, and took the spot of the EFI 1 slot in order to power the camera. And then I just ran it around inside here, and actually you can pull out one of the compartments here and run the wire up through. I wasn't real comfortable with that. So I actually cut a slit in my box cover. Probably not the most ideal thing to do, I realize, but I did it and it works just fine. I have both wires exiting here because you notice I do have another add a fuse over here. That's for the Raptor style lights in the front, but they both run out the back where that slot is there, so no big deal. And then I did ground it right here on the battery ground. I just put a little open-ended connector right there. Not sure, probably won't focus on it, right in there. And that's how I grounded it. Everything is hooked up. So now, and of course we still have to hide the wiring and stuff. We'll secure that down probably I'm thinking right beside the battery, somewhere down in there, but we'll get to that here in a few minutes. I'll show you that. All right, we are done. The wiring is ran. You guys can see right here is where it goes into the fuse box. And then right here, I can get up here, right here is where it's grounded. And then it runs on down along the side there. And then right over here in front of the battery, right down there, right there, is that great big bundle of wires. Since there's a ton of wiring, extra wire, or long wire rather, left over from the install. But that's where I decided to put it. I zip tied it to another wire that was underneath. And then if we go back over to the front, let you guys see, get my light out of here. Let you guys see the finished product. There is the camera. It does stick out a little bit. You guys can see from the top. It does protrude a little bit, but I don't know who's ever standing up in the air looking down at the truck. There's what it looks like from the front. And the further away you get, the more it kind of blends in with the rest of the grill. I did put some spacers in mine. That's right here. These are actually a couple of spacers because I wanted the camera to point down a little bit further, because the whole reason for me doing this is to be able to see what's out here in front of the truck. So otherwise it would be a little closer up and there wouldn't be these 2 spacers here in the application. I think it's an awesome mod, certainly worthwhile. It was rather time consuming for me. To be honest with you, it spilled into 2 days, partially because one of the add a fuse that I had was the wrong style. It did not fit into the slots in my fuse box, so I had to go pick up a different add a fuse, and that's kind of why it spilled into 2 days. I probably spent, man, I don't know, several hours on it, let's say. But I also filmed and wanted to make sure everything was done correctly. First time I've ever done anything like this, so I wanted to get it right the first time. Again, I think it's an awesome mod. If you're looking for a front-facing cam, I'll leave some information down below. Where I got the parts, the part numbers, that kind of stuff. Anyway, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this. For me, one of the top 5 mods, hands down. As usual, appreciate you guys watching. Please give this video a big thumbs up. Click that subscribe button if you haven't before. And we'll see you next time on the web. Have a great day. Bye. All right, thought I'd take it out for a little test run on the road. We're gonna see the front-facing cam as I'm driving. Here we go. I just think it's too cool. Again, I got it primarily for pulling in and out of spots, you know, parking spaces or in my garage or anywhere that might be tight that I'd like to see over the front of the truck. This would be awesome if you were an off-roader, because then you'd be able to see, obviously, what's coming up in front of you that you can't see over the front of the truck. But anyway, I just think it's pretty cool. Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a view of it while driving down the road.